Now, before we get in and we start to create these 7 various projects with Excel macros and VBA, I want to get into a little bit of the why and how behind Excel macros and VBA. So let's first talk about the why. What is this all about? What is Excel, VBA, and macros all about? Well, in one little word, if you take nothing else from this segment of this course, it's all about automation. I want to automate some experience. Whatever that experience is, I want to automate it. I want to be able to hit a single button inside of my Excel interface that does my work for me. One button press. Imagine this. You've got a weekly report. Every Friday, I've got to go out and gather all this data. Maybe it's from various systems or it's from various users. You've got all these lists of data from these different locations. I now need to bring that into Excel. I need to clean it up. I need to uniform it, make it look uniform. I need to make it look consistent, formatting and formulas and sorting and filtering and so on and so on. And then I need to create some calculations based on that data. I need to spit out a final report based off that data with key formulas, key values, charts, pivot tables, whatever it might be. One button press, and I can get my work done for me. It's all about automation. I want to automate the user's experience or my experience inside of Excel. That's what Excel, VBA, and macros is all about. That's the why. Automation. Now, how about the how? Well, this is great. I want to be able to automate my experience. I want to be able to save time. I want to be able to save money and automate my experience inside of Excel. Well, how do I do that? Well, there's a couple of different ways for you to be able to automate your experience through macros and VBA. The first one is, and this is going to be done inside of our first project, is we're going to talk about the macro recorder. You go into Excel, say, hey Excel, I want you to record, you hit a little button, I want you to record whatever actions I'm about to perform. Excel says, great, okay, I'll start recording you. You hit the record button, you fill out a little bit of a form, not much, say, okay Excel, I'm ready. You start doing stuff inside of Excel. You click on menu commands, you move your cursor around, you click inside of cells, you delete, you add data, you do whatever it is that you want to do. As you're doing this, Excel is silently in the background writing down everything that you're doing. It's recording your actions. So that later on, when you want to perform those same steps again, you hit the button, say Excel, you wrote it down before, go ahead and play my recording. And it will replay all of those actions again. This is one of the hows. And this is perhaps the quickest, easiest way to start automating inside of Excel. Now, we can also get into the VBA code. This is really what the macro recorder does, is it writes down, it creates all the VBA code for you. You can go into there afterwards, you can modify it, you can create VBA code from scratch. Write it yourself. And we're going to do both during this course. We'll talk about the macro recorder, quick, easy, get up and running, start automating your experience. And we're going to talk about writing your own VBA code. Now, we'll talk about VBA concepts. We're going to talk about looping structures. You want to get something to happen multiple times. You want to create logical statements. If this happens, then do this, that type of stuff. You want to be able to control the flow of your code. We'll talk about key concepts that'll help you do that. And we'll also talk about variables, another very important concept within programming in general, but VBA specifically here. We'll talk about how to create dynamic code. Perhaps you're importing that data every Friday. Remember to create that final report. And now some weeks you got more data or less data. Well, I need to be able to create macros or procedures, VBA code, that will accommodate for differences in my data. So we'll talk about creating dynamic stuff. Write it once, reuse it. You don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every time you want to complete a task. So we'll talk about reusable code. Just that. Don't reinvent the wheel. Create it once. Make it dynamic enough that you can reuse it in multiple situations, multiple scenarios. So we'll talk about key concepts to help you do that as well. Now we're going to go through 7 projects and we're going to see all of this in action. Macro recorder, writing your own code. We'll talk about VBA concept, make sure that we're all up on the same level playing field, and we'll talk about how you can save time and money as you work inside of Excel, all by using a little bit of VBA magic.